Yo, happy Sunday. How you guys doing today? Welcome back. Glad to be here. Beautiful day. Lots to talk about. Hope you've had a wonderful, beautiful week. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem like I can see anybody in the chat. If you guys are here, write a comment because I can't seem to see any comments here. What is going on? Say hello. Where are you at? There we are. Hi, Varsha. What's up, Luke? Good. The chat is working. Kayla, Daniel, hello, Kelsey. What's good with you guys? Hoping you're having a beautiful Sunday and you guys are in for a treat today. So I'm going to dive in to a concept on the stages of self-actualization. Now, oddly enough, I was first introduced to this entire concept when I was in elementary school. And I was introduced to it by somebody who I'm pretty sure had no idea what they were talking about, which is even more comical, because I believe that had the teacher who was sharing this incredible paradigm understood more about what she was sharing, that so many of us could have had a different experience, or maybe been on our path and on the journey to being our best self much sooner. But everything happens the way it's supposed to happen in the time that it's supposed to happen. And so, Miss Curbison, I let you off the hook. I'm sorry you didn't understand the concept, but I'm so grateful that you shared with me the hierarchy of needs, because today we're going to dive into that. So how many of you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? And if you are, just let me know that you're familiar with it and put it in the chat. Right? Just write me in the chat if you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Cool. I want to unpack that today because I believe that we can find some pretty interesting parallels between the hierarchy of needs and our current developmental level. And it gives us a framework to understand and realize where we've been, where we are, and where we are attempting to go. So if you are ever lost or feeling like you're a little bit unsure of how you're doing or where you are in your process of unfolding, in your process of becoming the best version of you, this paradigm, albeit simple, is super helpful. And so I'm going to bring that up for us to take a look at it. If you guys give me a quick moment here so I can share my screen. Awesome. Okay. Sweet. Now, I'm not sure if you guys can still see me. I think you can. But let's take a look at this hierarchy of needs. And I think we can really get an understanding of where we have been, where we are, and where we're trying to go by really being honest with ourselves and looking at these different rungs. Now, funny enough, there is a tremendous amount of parallels between this structure and the energetic systems in the body, or what is described as the different chakras. You can also find parallels between Maslow's hierarchy of needs and your own like physical thoughts and where your level of mind is in your physical body. And I'll kind of dive into that a little bit more. as we get into them. But let's start at the base of the hierarchy of needs, and that's the physiological needs, right? Now, of course, we all have physiological needs. Every one of us, in order to survive, need food, water, shelter, and a place to lay our head and not feel like we're, maybe going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or kidnapped by our warring tribes, right? So this is where the evolution of our physiological needs is derived. We find these same physiological needs in all of the animal kingdom, right? So if we look at animals, they also need food, water, warmth, and rest. And we share a lot of similarities between ourselves and other creatures in our beautiful world. So when we think about our life, right, as you are growing up as a child, you are given many of these physiological needs. You're provided for, and I hope that you had a life where your parents or family members or there was somebody in control that was helping you get your hands on some food, water, warmth, and rest. But we can pretty much say this is like the bare necessities, right? This is the base of the triangle, base of the pyramid, and we can't really get to the other levels unless we can satisfy these needs. Now, as an adult, you can probably remember a time where you were on your own and you had to take care of these specific needs for yourself, right? And this is typically once we leave our parents' house or we, move into our own spot and we start to have to become responsible for ourselves. So we start to have to figure out how we're going to feed ourselves, how we're going to water ourselves, how we're going to make sure that we've got enough warm clothing and that we are having enough rest so that we can wake up and do all the things tomorrow. And the reality is that typically once we are out on our own, we kind of falter with some of these things, right? I remember in my college years, I didn't eat very well. I would eat when I had time to eat. I was, of course, studying to become a doctor. And there's not a lot of time when you are trying to juggle 18 hours of classwork and homework and also live, right? And so I was still kind of figuring out my physiological needs once I left college. And I, even to this day, can forget to feed myself sometimes. So it's not that once you kind of figure one of these things out, you never return back. Of course, these are, they're dynamic. And so you might be able to float in and out of the different rungs of this pyramid over time. But again, as you are becoming an adult or become an adult, you kind of have to figure this part out fairly quickly, or you will perish, right? So if you're not feeding yourself, if you're not drinking water, if you're not staying warm and out of the elements, and you're not sleeping, there's a high likelihood that you will not make it very long. All right, so we satisfy our physical needs, our physiological needs, and we can find parallel in the body with our physiological needs just based off of where the base of our root chakra is, and that's in the perineum area of the body. And again, if you think about it, this is where your drive is, right? Your drive to just go out there and get your hands on the next meal. This is where for men, our testosterone is being hormonally regulated. And it gives us the motivation and the energy to be able to get out there and push towards getting something done. Okay, so we satisfy our physiological needs and we land on our safety needs. This is feeling secure. This is feeling safe. And again, very closely related to our physiological needs, but you really can't think about safety and security if you're starving to death, right? If you're dehydrating and you can't find water, you're not going to really think about, am I safe here? Am I secure here? Because you're starving. You are, thirsty, or you are freezing cold, or you haven't slept in a few days, right? And so once you satisfy the physiological needs, now you can start thinking about, okay, now that I got that stuff handled, I got to figure out how I can not die, right? Is this like a safe little place for me to put my head down? And if we look out in society right now, there are many people who are vulnerable, who don't have either of these two basic necessities dealt with. If you look at the unhoused population, you take a drive down Skid Row, you go look at any of the streets where addiction and homelessness is rampant, you will find many, 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 many examples where physiological needs and safety needs are not being met. And, you know, again, as human beings, this should be, and this should be a right. This should be a fundamental right for us to have. But it doesn't seem that either the people who are supposed to be taking care of themselves are really on the path to trying to get this handled, or the life has just become so overwhelming for them that they can't figure this piece out. But you're largely driven by unconscious needs. And I want you guys to write this part down, because I feel like this is where you can start to understand where you start to take responsibility, where you start to understand where your capacity to actually interact with this is the necessity, right? So like, how responsible are you to this? And are you consciously or unconsciously a victim, or are you creating it? And I believe that when we're in these lower two realms, we're unconscious. It's not like you sit there and think, okay, I'm going to get out today, and I'm going to go hunt for a meal, or I'm going to go and gather fruits and vegetables and other things that could be food. You're not going to be sitting and thinking like, oh, you know, maybe there'd be a great place for a fresher water source if I went, you know, over here. Maybe this water has a higher frequency in it that might be able to make me feel a little better. None of these things would really matter to you. You're unconsciously driven by it. And if you've ever thought about a time when you were hungry or you were thirsty, you probably couldn't think of anything else. You were probably like with a one-track mind, looking to get that one thing handled. And of course, that was all encompassing. It was consuming of your paradigm, of your attention, of everything that was in your experience. So everything you were looking at, is it food? No, then I don't care. Is it water? No, then I don't care. Is it warmth? Is it a place for me to find shelter? It's not. No, then I don't care. And so you're not going to really be thinking about God. You're not going to be thinking about your place in the universe. You're not going to be thinking about your unique talents and your unique gifts, or how you can potentially become a greater contributor to society. None of that's going to matter to you in these first two levels. So if you are currently in a spot where your finances have either of these two rungs of the pyramid not met, then getting to these creation-based areas is going to be extremely difficult to achieve. And this is where I believe the work of what Pace and I and others who are in the space of helping people get financial freedom are really trying to elevate you beyond, right? Because if you are living paycheck to paycheck, if you have a job right now that maybe isn't super secure, and you feel like maybe there's a chance that you could be let go, or your industry is suffering through some economic changes, and perhaps you might not be employed in the next few months, your safety needs are not being met. And the amount of anxiety, the amount of cortisol, the amount of hormonal dysregulation that accompanies these lower rungs of the pyramid is incredibly important to pay attention to. Because again, if your safety needs are not being met, there's a high likelihood that your body is producing a tremendous amount of cortisol. That cortisol is then being used by the body to get you to upregulate your sympathetic nervous system and put you in a fight or flight state, so that you can get out there and satisfy the security, the food, the water, the shelter needs. Is this all making sense to you guys? Now, again, if your energy and your thought processes and your consciousness is being focused on these two lower realms, then anywhere above that, you are going to be disqualified from entering. You cannot be in a creative space. You cannot be in a place where you are actually co-creating with your environment, or co-creating with the universe, or co-creating with spirit or God, or whatever you'd like to call that. There is no capacity to do that if your basic physical and safety needs are not being met. Now, by just a show of hands in the chat, how many that have tuned in today are still feeling somewhat vulnerable from their own physiological or their own safety needs being met? And please feel free to share, to be open and honest. This is a interactive conversation, and no one is judging you. No one is judging where you are. You are no worse or better for being in different stages of this. We're all human beings, and we're all on a path. And so I'm just wanting to understand how many are still kind of in these two vulnerable spots. Okay, cool. So there's quite a few of us that are still feeling like, we're not entirely secure. Our physiological needs aren't fully being met, and our safety needs aren't fully being met. And so I highly recommend that you spend some time, or that you put the next 90 days of your life into really getting clear on what of those physiological needs are not being met and which of your safety needs are not being met, so that we can accomplish that and move you into the next stages of development. All right. Now, again, if this means that you have to be honest with yourself about your current job or your current W-2 or your current method of feeding yourself, if there is some ambiguity there, or if there's a vulnerability there, or if there is a question on whether or not you're going to be able to make it, now is the time to take responsibility for it, because you can actually consciously be responsible for these needs instead of unconsciously being a victim of circumstance. And this is why I'm even having this conversation with us today, is because when we are in a victim situation where our environment is victimizing us, or where we are completely at the disposal of what happens in life, it's a very hard place to live in. It's a very hard place to thrive in, and it's a very hard place to generate those emotions that are required to live a more fulfilled life. Okay, so once we meet our safety needs, we then get into more of the relationship-based needs, right? And of course, as humans, we are needing interaction with other human beings. We need to have relationships. We need friendships. We need a sense of belonging. And if you are missing that, then you are missing one of the key essential pieces of being a human being, right? And so our intimate relationships, the relationship we have with our significant other, our family members, our children, our siblings, our friendships, right? For me, when I think about the relationships that I have in my life, there are many, so many of them that are very, very rich, that are very secure, that are very binding. And I know that if any of these lower needs, for instance, if I'm feeling unsafe, or if I'm feeling like I need water or shelter, because I have found myself, or I've been in this developmental stage where now I'm developing these friendships and these intimate relationships with people, I can always go to them with some of my safety or physiological vulnerabilities. And so it's really important that we get to this stage, because when you are in this stage of starting to create these interpersonal relationships, you can get these other needs met. So really finding ourselves in this place of belongingness, and this place where we can start to develop love between friends, and both intimate and non-intimate friendships, these things are incredibly important. And they allow us to elevate our emotional states into the place of creation. Now, I've talked about these on previous streams, where your emotional state and the contents of your thought are essentially being projected out to you as your reality, as your experience. And so where you are on this rung, where you are on this pyramid, is being reflected to you in your life right now. So I just want you to take a moment and to, again, look at the circumstances that you're facing. And are you currently in a place where one of the major places that you're putting your attention right now is in creating relationships, friendships, intimate relationships, partnerships? If this is where you are, it will be reflected to you in the going-ons of your day, right? Are you going on dates? Are you going to networking events? Are you going places with your significant other? Have you celebrated a birthday party for a child lately? You know, if you are doing these things, then you're definitely in this place of belongingness and love. And my friends, this is where our humanity starts to flower. This is where we can elevate our emotions, elevate our thought processes from those lower two rungs, and we get into the creative process. You cannot be a conscious creator, again, if you are worried about where your next meal is coming from, if you are worried about where you're going to lay your head, then the capacity for you to generate the frequency of emotion to create your experience is just not available. So it's extremely important for us to elevate ourselves beyond this so that we can at least start to live in a place where we are co-creating and developing relationships with one another. If you are in this stage or in this place of your development, let me know in the chat, because I'd like to see where some of you guys are with that. So I tend to find myself moving in and out of these three creation spots. I thankfully, and by the grace of God and life, I have elevated beyond worrying about my safety needs or my physiological needs. I have enough resources now in my life where these constantly get met. But I do find myself in flux between these creation spaces in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Awesome. So if you are finding yourself in this spot, this is very, very, very good, right? This tells you that you are working diligently on surviving. You can now elevate your attention beyond a place of survival. And this becomes a very beautiful and conscious, or you become available to consciousness in this space, right? So we can now start to think about and value things like truth. We can now start to think about and value connection. We can think about giving. We can think about being helpful, because if you are incapable of feeding yourself, then how is it that you're going to be able to help somebody else feed themselves in the process, right? And so this is where your capacity to share and give becomes highly available. And again, when you're in this belonging and love state, this place, I would say that the emotions that tend to correspond with this will be on the realm of both positive and negative. You could feel tremendous amount of connection. You can feel that, the oxytocin of love. You can feel the connections between your friends. You feel like, man, I'm a part of this group. For instance, the astro flipping community, or the sub 2 community, or the owners club community. These communities, the bonds that exist between the people in those communities is extremely strong. I'm going to ask the chat again here. If you are a member of the Astro community, or the sub 2 community, or the owners club community, has being a part of one of these communities allowed you to develop more friendships? Has it allowed you to refine the way that you interact with people, and to maybe give some agency to others to feel like connections with other human beings are a part of your day-to-day well-being? Awesome. So how cool, right? How fun is it for us to have access to these friendships and these groups that allow us to have this creative process unfold in our world. And that to me is just a beautiful thing. One of the real reasons why Pace and I are so committed to the communities that we are a part of, because we know how important this belongingness and love really is in our development as humans. All right. So, once we're in this stage of feeling like we belong, like feeling like love is a real part of our life, now we can start to really make an impact with other humans. And this is the piece that I would love for all of us to really, really work on getting to. The reality is there is only one of you. There is only one Juliana, there is only one Alexander Whitfield, there's only one Antoine, only one Jennifer Finch, only one Ben Power, only one Tabitha Jones. And the truth of that is that you are the only one who has experienced life the way that you've experienced it. You're the only person who has seen and had the experiences that you've had, the family upbringing, the traumas, the wins, the relationships, the people. And because of that, you are unique in your experience, and you have developed and created talents that are unique to you as well. Now, unless you are in a place in your life where you can start sharing those aspects of you, then you're still not really doing the piece that we're meant to do as human beings, which is create impact and to share our experience so that we can have a sense of esteem, right? Now, I want to ask you guys, how many of you have ever had an opportunity to help somebody along in their life, right? Whether it be in business or maybe with a personal problem that they were dealing with. But if you've ever had the pleasure, or if you've ever had the honor of being helpful to a friend or a family member or a business associate in life, I want you to describe in one word in the chat how that made you feel. What was the ability to be helpful to someone else? What did it make you feel? What would you describe that as in one word? Uplifted, Craig Kiefer says. Absolutely. Brandon Martin says magical. Yes. Powerful, says Alexander. Grateful, of course. Fulfilled, from Dorian. Encouraged. Yes. Beautiful. Joy. Amazing. Right? And so we can see that there was not a single negative emotion that you can gain or that you can say will be a result of helping people, of being able to feel accomplished, of being able to have the position in life to give to somebody, to make an impact in their life. And so the amount of esteem that you can get and that level of frequency that is associated with a high self-esteem is incredible. And because we know that as we go up these different rungs of the pyramid, the frequency of the emotions that are a result are higher and higher and higher, right? Would you say, or would you agree that if you are still living in a place where your physiological needs are not being met, would you agree that that is a low vibrational state? I'm sure you would. And when you are feeling unsafe, would you say that that is a low vibrational state? Yes. If you start to feel the sense of belonging and love, would you say that your vibrational state is increasing? Absolutely. If you're able to make an impact in somebody else's life in a positive way, would you say that that is a high vibrational act? Absolutely. Right. And so as we increase up this ladder, as we increase this pyramid, up the pyramid, the frequency is also increasing. And we know that when we increase our frequency, we now get met with opportunities and circumstances and relationships of a similar frequency in our life. And so why this is such an important thing for us to understand is that if you are constantly being met in life with threats to your safety, with threats to your physiological needs, with threats to your relationships, then that state, that low vibrational state, will continue to pull you down. And so you got to be honest with yourself. What's been happening in your life over the last 90 days? Have you been finding more instances of an opportunity to feel high esteem, for opportunities to feel belongingness and love? Or have you had more threats to your safety, more threats to your physiological safety? And if you have, that's an indication that we haven't been able to meet our needs in some of these lower areas. Is this all tracking for y'all? Cool. All right. So once we are in this stage of being able to feel that esteem by sharing our gifts, by being able to be helpful to another human being, we start to come into this state of actualizing ourselves as our highest and best version. Now, Maslow described this as achieving one's full potential, and that's inclusive of your creative activities. Right now, one's full potential. What could we describe a self-actualized person as exhibiting? If you could think about this, or if you could use some words that could describe what an actualized individual's life would look like, please write some of those descriptive words in the chat. What does a person who's living an actualized life, what are some characteristics of that life? Humility, awesome. Javon says that person could be humble. Awesome. Believe in yourself says empowered. Absolutely. Right? That person is walking in their power. They're in their space. They're in their bodies. Absolutely. So Jane says creativity and joy. Yes. Antoine says positive and energetic. Stephanie says peace. Amen. Craig says balance. Yes. Eric, wisdom, confidence, equanimity. Finances are handled, focusing on larger purpose. Absolutely. Purposeful, fulfilled, energetic. That's energy that's magnetic. Yes, 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 yes. Right. So all of these descriptions that you guys are writing in the chat right now are incredibly beautiful. Now, can you imagine a life where you had the capacity? And I just want to read these out in one sentence so that you can start to understand just why it's so important for us to do this. Because what would life for you be like if you were empowered, creative, joyful, positive, energetic, peaceful, balanced, wise, confident, where you had all of the finances in order, where you were purposeful and fulfilled, where you were magnetic, where you were confident, where you were living in your own truth, where you had the capacity to listen to your higher self, and where you are more than living just in a dream, you are in it every single day. What would your life be like if that was your everyday state? Would the day-to-day dramas or gossip or any of these things make any difference to you? Absolutely not, right? And as Craig just described it, I would say that that word that he used right now is bang on. I would call that bliss. I would absolutely call that bliss. So the capacity for us to be able to live a self-actualized life where we are living out our full potential, right? And here's the thing, we get lied to all the time by society, because they tell us that if you are still economically being threatened, if you are still in a place right now where your security is not guaranteed, where your economics are not guaranteed, right? Then if you are still in that place and it's constant, we're constantly in threat by the world we're in, right? Then that is not actually living your potential. And let's be real, society profits more when you are in these lower two states, right? Society will profit. Your employers will do better if you are living in fear. Your employers will make more money if you have to come to work to feed yourself. Your employers are going to do better if your security and your safety is tied to what they give you, because you are no longer living your own creations. You are now simply serving theirs. So I just want you to realize that this has all sort of been created to keep you in bondage. And once you're aware that you're in bondage, once you are aware that these items are threatening your existence, you have the ability to walk away. You have the ability to change that. All right. So self-actualization, right? Living one's full potential. That means your economics are handled. That means that your relationships are in a good place. That means that your relationship with yourself is in a great place. That means that you are living in a creative way where your day-to-day existence, the circumstances and the opportunities that find you, you are co-creating them. And I can tell you from having had opportunities where I've lived in this spot of the pyramid, there is nothing more fulfilling. There is nothing greater. There's nothing that feels better than an actualized life. And so it is our responsibility as people to find our way up the ladder. And I just wanted to, before we leave that concept, I want to ask you guys if any of you have some examples of activities that could help you or help each other raise themselves out of the different lower levels of the pyramid. I'll start us off by saying, of course, one of my favorites is meditation. Another is breath work. Journaling has been incredibly helpful for me to be able to get real, to get honest with myself about where I am and where I've been and where I'm trying to go. Exercise, my goodness, yes, Antoine, exercise is so important. If we're not taking care of our bodies, how are we going to be able to take care of our minds? How are we going to be able to take care of our souls? Absolutely. Luke says, lift weights, eat clean, and pray. Amen. Jane says, walk in nature. Kelsey says, prayer. Oscar says, success with my business endeavors. Yes, sir. Alexander says he's getting better with his breath work and his meditation. Incredible. Dennis is doing jump rope. Beautiful. John Condi says sauna. Absolutely. Catherine says networking. You better believe networking is helpful. Ben says exercise gets me there. It's a non-negotiable in his life. Love it. Craig says gratitude. Amazing. That is a very, very real one. Jesse Lopez says the great outdoors, the mountains, the beach, the park. Court the Empress, love the name, says grounding and rising in gratitude every day. That is absolutely beautiful. Marlon Mitchell says playing with my pet. You better believe that's helpful. Oh my God, nothing brings a bigger smile to my face than hanging out with my pups. I love those dudes. They're so fun, and they absolutely bring a tremendous amount of joy. John Condi says fasting. Yes, another great exercise. Another great exercise to help us raise ourselves into the creative spot. Now, I, as you guys know, am obsessed with self-actualization, and I'm proud to share with you guys first. I haven't even told my team about this. So Yvette, if she's watching this, probably she's going to fall out of her chair. But just yesterday, I made an offer on what is going to become the Center for Self-Actualization here in Arizona. And it's going to be an incredible place, a place for people to come visit, to spend a weekend in some of these different practices and some of these different modalities to really raise yourself into a higher vibrational state. And over the next 12 months, I'll be doing awesome little retreats there, very, very, very small group retreats with people who are also fanatics of the actualization process. And so Please keep checking in. We are going to close on this property in the next 60 days and then do some renovations to it. And it should be open for the community to come visit within the next 6 months. So I'm extremely excited to share this with you guys. And I hope that some of you or all of you will come and spend a weekend out at the Center for Self-Actualization in Arizona. It's going to be an incredible place where we can connect, where we can grow, where we can share our ideas, and where we can all be on this path of actualization together. If you want more information about the Center for Self-Actualization, please reach out to me and I will put you on a list. And you can email us at Damji Media. I'll put it in the chat right now. damjimedia@gmail.com. And just in the subject heading, write Center for Self-Actualization. Just put CSA in the subject of the email. And when we have more details, I will share that with you. So I just put that in the chat, the email again, one more time, damjimedia@gmail.com. And in the subject heading, write CSA. And when we get closer to opening the center, and as we are renovating the center, I'll be sending out updates and notes so that you guys can see where we are in the process. But this is going to be a phenomenal venture for myself and for the community at large. I think we're all going to get so much benefit from this. So it'll be a real treat. I love you guys. I'm so grateful that I get to share these ideas and concepts, and that you guys all care about it as much as I do, that you tune in Sunday after Sunday to come listen to me yammer about the things that make me tick. It means the world to me, and I feel so honored and blessed to be a part of your guys' journey to actualization. So I'll see you guys all next Sunday, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your weekend. Take care.